With 2023 shaping up to be a critical year for the Open RAN community, I'm talking with Kristian Toivo, Executive Director of the Telecom Infra Project, also known as TIP, about the status of market developments. So, Kristian, thanks very much for joining us. Good to see you today. So, Open RAN has been in development for more than 4 years now, and it's one of the main focus areas for TIP, though by no means the only area of development for the project, of course. But what's your view on the current state of the Open RAN ecosystem and its maturity? Is it set to play a bigger role in network operator plans in 2023, do you think?
Well, I am absolutely convinced that 2023 will see much more deployments, announcements, and overall engagements of the industry in Open RAN. With all that said, I do think there is, like in any new technology, it just takes its time. And when it comes to my view on the maturity of the technology, I do think we've come to a point where it's really not about testing and trialing. It is about deploying and deploying in the sense that we get the real commercial operation and the feedback from that commercial operation, which obviously then will probably mean that both processes on the operator side as well as products and solutions on their own will still evolve as we go along. But from my point of view, 2023 is a year where we will see more, at least initial commercial deployments on all continents, I would dare to say.
Now, there seems to be a certain amount of momentum, but also a little bit of impatience as well about the progress made so far in some circles. What do you think can be done to accelerate developments in the Open RAN sector? What would help to move things along faster?
Yeah, this concern or impatience is kind of easy to understand in the sense that to develop RAN solutions and products that perform well in a mission critical environment, cellular environment, takes a lot of investment, have to hire a lot of talented people, and you have to work hard to get the products and the solutions to a level that really enable them to be deployed. And hence, particularly companies that are kind of new in the game and have seen Open RAN as a potential pivot to start growing their market position. I can understand the impatience particularly from the investors who want to start to see a return on that investment. And I do think it's actually very important that as we move along, the new announcements, contracts, deployments that we hopefully will see involve a broad spectrum of the vendors that are engaged in Open RAN. And it's kind of also fairly obvious in the sense that Open RAN is, by its definition, meant to kind of include products from different vendors to be working together and hence kind of bring the best of breed into the network. And in that sense, I think it's important that we will get those announcements and commercial commitments from leading major operators to the extent that the continued investment in development, but also investment in preparing the various type of organizational setups and establishing the type of teams and organizations that also can deploy and support for commercial deployment are able to proceed and prepare for that later phase. And hence this kind of confidence building in terms of really seeing that this is more than a few pioneer operators really daring to go into live networks with the technology. I think that will be a key enabler to get things moving forward. I think there obviously are some other things as well that are important. One of the topics that we have been talking about through and within TIP, and it's also been discussed widely in the industry and in the various fora, is the need to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts, particularly integration and verification. And to that end, I think it's important that various initiatives that are being brought forward in the industry about creating alignment on the basic requirements and prioritized configurations, and then also establishing, let's say, a commercial grade integration and testing process that can facilitate solutions that are to a large extent on system level ready to be brought into the operator's final validation before deployment, that we get to that point. And that can also be facilitated by other actors like governments, as an example. In the United States, the NTIA's Wireless Innovation Fund is one of those tools that I believe will be used by industry players, and actually ourselves at TIP are engaging heavily in that process as well, to see how we could enable or put forward solutions and proposals that would enable particularly this integration and readiness for solutions to be deployable, to be created. So I think we need a lot of different actions, not just technology related, but also a more, let's say, confidence and to some extent maybe also some risk taking on the operator side to start. We need these initiatives that bring, let's say, the prioritized configurations and a broad enough set of vendors together, and that we use various type of industry initiatives to ensure that we reduce duplication and hence maintain the efficiency of that supply chain. And as said, that can also be facilitated also by regulators, government entities in various markets. With that, I do believe that during 23, we will see this type of initiatives also starting to bear fruit. And when we go into 24, 25, I think we will definitely see a significant uptake in the market share of Open RAN across the world.
Now, the RAN Intelligent Controller, or RIC, is emerging as a key area of development in Open RAN circles. But are we ready to see RIC platforms be deployed in networks this year, or is it still too early?
Firstly, I would say I certainly fully share your view that this is probably one of the most exciting aspects of Open RAN, because with that RIC architectural concept, platforms, and the fact that there is also a kind of a market space for various type of application developers, some of whom could actually even come in from adjacent industries to bring their knowledge regarding automation and AI into our industry. I think that is quite remarkable. And I've had the pleasure also in meeting various type of organizations that are driving initiatives, both from an operator point of view, vendor point of view, and even various third parties who are looking into how the RIC concept can enable things that are not possible to do in such a way, an easy way, in traditional cellular networks. And that's particularly related to being dynamically addressing energy efficiency, new ways of configuring the radio environment, linking business applications, particularly if we talk about the private network space, or eventually in the longer term across the public network, on how applications can interact and have an impact on the actual RAN configuration and performance aspects. So in that sense, I do strongly believe this will play a big role. I do believe there is still work to be done, and there is, to my understanding, work to be done even in the standardization phase, particularly to make sure that we avoid any sort of limitations for those applications, the XApps and RApps, to be too dependent on the particular RIC platform. So I do think there's work to be done on that space, because we need to create that scalability, reusability on the application side. But I also do think, which I find really interesting and important, that we need to work a bit more on how at least some of those RIC use cases could be applicable and also address parts of the what we would call the legacy or existing RAN network, because obviously bearing in mind that an Open RAN environment will grow over years to actually have a most significant portion of the radio network in existing operators' environments, to have then the actual leverage of that capability of the RIC and the applications. I think there are many use cases where it really is important that that functionality or those operations that are executed through the RIC in one way or another can also address at least critical parts of the legacy RAN network. Hence, I do believe for this aspect of the RIC and the whole SMO, so the management and orchestration environment, it's really important that the operators are really driving the requirement space, and that discussion also includes all the vendors, particularly not just the Open RAN vendors, but also the vendors that have a large market share of the existing radio network infrastructure today. But with all that said, I think this will play a role. I would probably guess that there is still some work to be done in 2023 before that really has a commercial major impact. Hence, I would maybe think that the actual real breakthrough of the RIC and the applications and those use cases will take a little bit longer time. That's my personal view.
Okay, yes, and certainly a realization, I think, in the sector, and certainly with some of the operators, that this could be a really useful tool, like you mentioned, in the hybrid networks, which is kind of the setup that's largely expected in a lot of existing mobile operators today, a mix of traditional RAN systems and Open RAN as well. So Kristian, thanks very much for your insights today. Fascinating stuff. And look forward to talking to you again later in 2023 about developments, not only in Open RAN, but across all the aspects of open telco architecture. So thanks very much for chatting with us today.
Thank you.